Chapter 2252. Yu was completely dumbfounded by his words. Prince Zhang didn't think of a way to deal with the Gao family, but Prince Zhang actually supported the Gao family in this matter. What was the reason? After thinking for a moment, she still couldn't figure out Prince Zhang's purpose. Wasn't he afraid that the Gao family would really replace him? Was Prince Zhang going to let the Gao family poach people from the glaze workshop and paper mill for Jiangnan's industry? Angrily said, "Don't keep me in suspense. Just tell me what you want to do. You're making me anxious. If your industry is taken by the Gao family, what will happen to the Yu family?" Zhang Feng couldn't help but laugh. Yu's angry appearance was very cute, so he couldn't help but say, "You're a fool. You fool, the core technology of the paper mill and the glaze workshop are in our hands. Do you think the Gao family can produce the glaze and white paper?" When Yu heard this, she suddenly felt enlightened. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Without the core technology, the transparent glaze and paper can't be made. Great, Prince Zhang actually called me stupid. Thinking of this, Yu was furious. She immediately waved her small fist and continuously hit Zhang Feng's chest. "You, stop hitting. Are you planning to murder your husband? Didn't I tell you already?" Coldly snorted and angrily looked at Zhang Feng. Her gaze was as if she wanted to swallow Zhang Feng alive. It was very frightening. Seeing Yu like this, Zhang Feng didn't know what to do for a moment. This woman was really scary when she was angry. As he spoke, he constantly stroked Yu's back, trying to calm her down. Yu tenderly shouted, "You knew, but you didn't tell me and made me guess. Tell me, what are you trying to do? I'm so angry." Seeing this, Zhang Feng had a helpless expression. It turned out that this great aunt wouldn't give up until she got to the bottom of it. Thinking of that terrifying gaze just now, Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel scared. He couldn't help but explain, "My great aunt, if you get angry too much, you won't be pretty anymore. Whatever you want to know, just ask. I'll answer everything." Seeing that Zhang Feng had compromised and had a sincere look on his face, Yu couldn't blame him anymore. So she asked them together, "Then why are you doing this? You clearly know that the Gao family is coveting your business. Not only do you not care, but you also support the Gao family in this matter?" It wasn't easy to guess Zhang Feng's thoughts. This time, the Gao family poaching people from the glazed workshop and the paper mill was all within his expectations. Since the Gao family had fallen into the trap, of course they had to give them some benefits in order to drag them down with them. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng stood up and crossed his arms behind his back. Think about it. If the Gao family didn't have my core technology, would they have been able to create azure glass and paper? Hearing this, Yu's head shook incessantly like a rattle drum as she replied, "No way. Then what do you think will happen if they can't create it?" Yu wasn't a stupid person. Seeing that Zhang Feng had made this matter so clear, she couldn't help but come to a realization. "You're saying," Zhang Feng walked over to Yu and held her slender little hand, caressing it continuously. A cold smile appeared on his face as he couldn't help but say this. "If the Gao family can't create azure glass and paper, then all the money they invested in the early stages will be wasted. In that case, my goal will be achieved. When they run out of money, think about it. What do you think they will do?" Yu was completely shocked by Zhang Feng's words. She didn't expect Zhang Feng to be so meticulous as to set up such a big trap. When the Gao family jumped in and couldn't create azure glass and paper, they would definitely suffer a great loss. If the Gao family ran out of money, they would definitely seek help. At that time, Prince Zhang would make a move. Yu stared at Zhang Feng with wide eyes. No wonder Prince Zhang was so calm when she asked him about this matter. It turned out that he already had his own plans. Thinking of this, Yu couldn't help but admire Zhang Feng. Seeing that Yu seemed to have understood his goal, Zhang Feng walked up with a smile. "Alright, Yu, don't be angry. I've already said that the Gao family is nothing to me. Don't worry too much." Hearing this, snorted and turned her head away. She didn't want to pay attention to Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng smiled helplessly and hugged Yu tightly from behind. He leaned his head on Yu's shoulder and couldn't help but narrow his eyes when he smelled the fragrance coming from Yu's body. Actually, Zhang Feng knew that Yu was worried about him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have blamed him for not telling her the reason. His face couldn't help but brim with happiness. These 3 women had been with him all this time. After everything was settled, he would give them a status. It seemed that all of this would take a long time. The 5 surnames and 7 hopes still hadn't made a move. He didn't know what they were thinking. At the same time, the Gao family. At this moment, in the inner courtyard of the Gao family, a middle-aged man with graying temples and turbid eyes was tending to all kinds of exotic flowers and plants in the garden. He was holding a pair of scissors and trimming, looking very uncomfortable. From time to time, he would stand up and stare blankly at the flowers and plants. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 2253. This middle-aged man was the head of the Gao family, Gao Xian. Ever since the butler, Gao Cheng, gave him advice and decided to poach people from Zhang Feng's glaze workshop and paper mill, Gao Xian had never been calm. Sometimes he was happy, and sometimes he was worried. He didn't know if his plan would succeed. Although the Gao family was rich, it was Zhang Feng's business after all. He didn't know if he could poach them, so he was very nervous at this time. Master! Good news! Just when the head of the Gao family was worried about the result of this matter, a voice came into Gao Xian's ears. He looked over. He saw Gao Cheng hurrying into the courtyard, his face full of joy. Just as he was thinking, Gao Cheng had already arrived in front of Gao Xian. He clasped his hands and said excitedly, "Master, great news." Gao Xian looked at Gao Cheng in confusion. There was no great news in the house. Why did Gao Cheng suddenly come to congratulate him? He asked, "Gao Cheng, what's the good news?" Old man doesn't quite understand. Gao Cheng almost couldn't hold back his excitement at this moment. Master asked him to find his fellow countrymen and try to pull them from Zhang Feng's glaze workshop and paper mill to work for the Gao family. Unexpectedly, things went very smoothly, and there were unexpected gains, so he hurried over early in the morning to report to the head of the Gao family. Gao Cheng's voice was excited, and his hands were trembling. He said ecstatically, "Master, do you remember that I told you that my fellow countrymen are in the paper mill?" Hearing this, Gao Xian nodded thoughtfully. His eyes flashed, and he couldn't help but be excited. "Could it be?" Gao Cheng said excitedly. "Master, my fellow countrymen have left Zhang Feng's paper mill and come to work for the Gao family." As soon as he said this, Gao Xian's heart suddenly surged, and he couldn't help but exclaim, "What? Is that true? You're not lying to me, are you? They are really willing to work for the Gao family?" Hearing this, Gao Cheng nodded his head in ecstasy. Gao Xian couldn't suppress the excitement in her heart. Who would have thought that our Gao family would be able to start a paper business? Let's see how you, Zhang Feng, will compete with old man. Thinking of this, Gao Xian couldn't help but laugh. Seeing that Gao Xian was extremely happy at this moment, Gao Cheng also laughed and continued. "Master, that's not all. The people from the glazed glass workshop are also leaving one after another. They all want to work with our Gao family and work for us." Gao Xian was grinning from ear to ear. She didn't know how to express her excitement. Colored glaze and papermaking. Both of these items were worth a lot in the market. Although Old Man didn't get any benefits from the auction, he still had a lot of money. But now, the old man also had these precious treasures. Even if Zhang Feng knew, what could he do? He smiled and said, "Gao Cheng, you did well in this matter. The old man will reward you handsomely. Whatever you want, the old man will satisfy you." Gao Cheng was very happy to hear the old master praise him. He said sincerely, "I don't want anything. I just want to accompany the old master and have food to eat. I'm willing to pledge my loyalty to the old master." Gao Xian looked at Gao Xian's sincere appearance and stroked his beard. He couldn't stop smiling. Gao Cheng had been following the old man for a long time and had always been loyal. Of course, he didn't treat him unfairly. He said, "You've contributed the most in this matter. The old man will reward you with 100,000 strings of cash. Go to the accountant to receive it later." "Thank you, old master." Gao Cheng bowed to Gao Xian. Gao Xian thought to herself. The business of paper and glazed glass was already in the hands of the old man. Then, the old man couldn't be idle. He had to get these things out before Zhang Feng. This way, the Gao family's reputation would be spread. My Gao family wouldn't have to worry about not getting rich. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. Haha, then he said to Gao Cheng, Gao Cheng, from now on, the Gao family will stop all of Jiangnan's businesses and focus on paper and glazed glass. Do you understand? When Gao Cheng heard this, he was shocked. What was the old master going to do? If he stopped all of the Gao family's businesses now, would glazed glass really work? Would it be inappropriate to go all out on Luli? What if something unexpected happened? But now, Gao Xian was excited. What should he do? He stammered, Old master, there's something I don't know if I should say? Gao Xian came back to her senses. Looking at Gao Cheng's hesitant appearance, she couldn't help but be puzzled. What's wrong with this kid? She asked. Say it. Gao Cheng was afraid that if he said it, the old master would be angry. He didn't know how to say it. After thinking for a long time, he mustered up the courage to speak. Old master, if we stop all of the Gao family's businesses and stake everything on glazed glass and paper, wouldn't it be inappropriate? Hearing this, Gao Xian's face darkened. This kid was just at the moment when he was happy, but he poured cold water on her. She didn't know what to say to Gao Cheng. She immediately shouted, What do you know? The value of glazed glass and paper is extraordinary. Whether or not the Gao family can become rich in the future depends on these two things. You still dare to provoke the old man? All right, there's no need to say any more. You can leave. Old master, Gao Cheng wanted to say something but stopped. He couldn't persuade the old master, so he could only give up. Chapter 2254. Chang'an City. The Imperial Palace. After Zhang Sun Wuji returned to the Eastern Palace in a hurry, he didn't even have time to change his clothes before hurrying to Taiji Palace. As soon as he entered, Zhang Sun Wuji saw Li Shimin sitting in front of the desk with one hand supporting his forehead, thinking about something. Zhang Sun Wuji quietly dismissed all the palace maids and eunuchs, and then personally dismissed all the guards outside the door. Only then did he cautiously come to Li Shimin. Li Shimin was a little confused. But after seeing Zhang Sun Wuji's serious face, Li Shimin couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Could it be that Zhang Sun Wuji wanted something from him? Come with me. Li Shimin suddenly stood up and said in a deep voice. Then, as if he was still worried, he ordered, Shao Gizi. Your servant is here. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter the imperial study. Violators will be beheaded. I have something to discuss with Zhang Sun Wuji. Yes, Your Majesty. After giving the order, Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji went to the imperial study. My dear minister, you seem to be in a hurry. What's the matter? Li Shimin asked as soon as he entered the imperial study and sat down on a soft couch. He waved his hand and motioned for Zhang Sun Wuji to sit down as well. Zhang Sun Wuji then said, Your Majesty, the Guanlong clan's industrial production is very prosperous. If this continues, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to us. If we don't suppress them, they will unite with the 5 clans and 7 kingdoms of Jiangnan. Things will become very serious. Hearing this, Li Shimin frowned. The Guanlong clan and the 5 clans and 7 kingdoms were like thorns in his heart. If he didn't control them. For the Tang dynasty, this was not a good omen. Li Shimin paused. My dear minister, what do you think? Zhang Sun Wuji said with a burning gaze, But Your Majesty doesn't need to worry. I've received news that Zhang Feng's businesses in the Guanlong clan have already occupied half of the market. As long as the price is lowered, the Guanlong clan will definitely have internal strife. Li Shimin's expression changed as he couldn't help but think. Lowering the price would definitely arouse the dissatisfaction of the workers there. After all, the prices of all the industries in Guanlong were on the high side. If the price was lowered, it would destroy the balance and cause internal strife. In this way, they would have no time to care about the matters in Jiangnan. Thinking of this, Li Shimin waved his hand and ordered. Minister, I'll leave this matter to you. Let the people over there rest for 2 days. At the same time, lower the price here. Understood. Zhang Sun Wuji stood up and bowed. Li Shimin lay on his bed and couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, the Tang dynasty has talents like Zhang Feng to share my worries and solve my problems. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do. Seeing Li Shimin's melancholy expression, Zhang Sun Wuji comforted. Your Majesty, don't worry too much. Taking care of your body is more important. I've also received news from Yu Qigong from Jiangnan. It's about Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng? Didn't that kid go to Jiangnan? Could it be that the kid did something in Jiangnan? Li Shiming's melancholy face suddenly became rosy. Maybe it was because of Zhang Feng. Li Shiming asked doubtfully. My dear minister, quickly tell me, what's up with that kid? Zhang Sun Wuji said with joy. Your Majesty, Zhang Feng is preparing to open an academy in Jiangnan. Hearing this, Li Shiming couldn't help but scratch his head, his heart full of doubts. What is this kid trying to do? He couldn't help but ask, My dear minister, this kid is going to open an academy? Seeing Li Shiming's confusion, Zhang Sun Wuji explained. Your Majesty, please let me finish. Not only is Zhang Feng opening an academy, but he has also set up a test to recruit selective students. If you can answer it, you can be admitted as an exception. If you have a skill, you can also be admitted. Li Shiming's heart trembled. Does this kid want to open an academy in Jiangnan like Chang'an's White Deer Academy? I remember that the kid said that opening an academy is to recruit talents from all over the world to serve the Tang dynasty. It seems that this kid didn't forget to think about me and the Tang dynasty after going to Jiangnan. He couldn't help but sigh with joy on his face. Good. Zhang Feng is really my good minister. Seeing Li Shiming's happy face, Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but agree. Your Majesty has such a talent. In the future, the Tang dynasty will be prosperous and the people will be at peace. It will be passed down for generations to come. Li Shiming said eagerly with joy on his face. Quick, my dear minister, what else did that kid do? Seeing Li Shiming's anxious face, Zhang Sun Wuji was secretly surprised. It seemed that His Majesty attached great importance to Zhang Feng's matter. After all, everything Zhang Feng did in Chang'an was for the sake of the Tang dynasty. Moreover, he solved one problem after another. It could be said that he was the reincarnation of God's blessing to the Tang dynasty. Zhang Sun Wuji said lightly, Your Majesty, don't worry. Listen to me. Not only did Zhang Feng open an academy, but he also plans to build a bathhouse in Jiangnan. Hearing this, Li Shiming's eyes were filled with endless curiosity. Bathhouse? What's that? Why have I never heard of it? This kid is always making strange things. I don't know what the bathhouse is for. Chapter 2255. Li Shiming couldn't suppress his curiosity and asked in confusion. I say, my beloved, what is this brat doing with this bathhouse? Seeing Li Shiming's curious expression, Zhang Sun Wuji was also very curious. He had never heard of this bathhouse before. This was the news that Yu Qigong had sent over from Jiangnan. Only then did he know about the bathhouse. Therefore, he explained, Your Majesty, according to the news from Yu Qigong, this bathhouse is a large pool for many people to bathe in. There are also things like massages set up in it, but I'm not very clear about it. Li Shiming's brows were furrowed like fried dough twists. What is this guy trying to do? Bathing for many people? In the Tang dynasty, people could only bathe at most twice a year. Did this guy open this bathhouse to solve the problem of men bathing in the Tang dynasty? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but turn to Zhang Sun Wuji and ask, My dear minister, then this massage is? Zhang Sun Wuji chuckled. When he received the news about this massage, he was also extremely shocked. Boxes per floor. This Zhang Feng actually did so many incredible things in Jiangnan. This massage. Thinking of this, Zhang Sun Wuji smiled and said, Your Majesty, I heard that this massage is similar to acupuncture in traditional Chinese medicine. Hearing this, Li Shiming was suddenly enlightened. He didn't expect this guy to come up with such a thing. But what's the difference between this massage and traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture? Isn't this superfluous? He couldn't help but ask, My dear minister, isn't this massage the same as traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture? What's there to be curious about? No, Zhang Sun Wuji quickly waved his hand. The specific information also said that this was the first time Zhang Sun Wuji came into contact with such a magical thing. He didn't expect such a magical thing to exist in this world. He explained, Your Majesty, Although the principle of this massage and traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture is the same, this massage is different. The so-called massage is to use the hands to find various acupuncture points on the body and press to stimulate the acupuncture points to achieve the purpose of relaxing the muscles and promoting blood circulation. Li Shimin's eyes widened when he heard this. He didn't expect this guy to come up with such a good thing. He could achieve similar effects without using needles like traditional Chinese medicine. This guy is too awesome. When I have time in the future, I must find this guy to try the massage effect. Seeing that Li Shimin was interested, he said happily, "Your Majesty, I also know that Zhang Feng not only did this massage, but also made a kind of medicinal bath." What? Medicinal bath? What's that? Li Shimin was surprised. Zhang Sun Wuji nodded. Li Shimin was confused. He didn't expect there to be so many tricks in this massage. Seeing this, Zhang Sun Wuji continued, "This medicinal bath is made of many different Chinese herbs. Soaking the feet in the water can not only relieve fatigue, but also remove dampness and diseases, relax the muscles and promote blood circulation, etc." After listening to Zhang Sun Wuji's words, Li Shimin suddenly felt as if he had opened a new world. He didn't expect this massage to have such a magical effect. This kind of good thing, I must get some from that guy. Usually, I have to deal with a myriad of affairs and review memorials every day. My body feels like it's filled with lead and it's very uncomfortable. It seems that I have to try this guy's medicinal bath to improve my body. I didn't expect this guy to come up with something so magical. There must be more surprises later. He suddenly stood up and asked eagerly, "My dear minister, what did that guy do in Chang'an? Tell me about it." Seeing that Li Shimin was so happy, Zhang Sun Wuji didn't know if he should say what he wanted to say next. After all, this matter caused a lot of trouble. He didn't know how to start. Li Shimin saw Zhang Sun Wuji's awkward expression and vaguely guessed that this guy must have caused a lot of trouble in Jiangnan. He asked, "My dear minister, what is it?" Zhang Sun Wuji said in a trembling voice. "This, I speak," Li Shimin said gently. Seeing that Li Shimin's expression changed slightly, Zhang Sun Wuji said, "Your Majesty, it's not that I don't want to say it, but I don't know where to start. That Zhang Feng has caused quite a commotion in Jiangnan, causing a huge uproar among those small clans with 5 surnames and 7 hopes." Li Shimin paused. It seemed that this guy had decided to go to Jiangnan to share his burden and face those small clans alone. It seemed that he had already started to make his move. He didn't know what it was that made Zhang Sun Wuji unable to speak for a while. Then he asked, "My dear minister, what did that guy do in Jiangnan?" After hesitating for a moment, Zhang Sun Wuji said, "Your Majesty, Zhang Feng opened an auction in Jiangnan." Auction? What is it for? Li Shimin looked at Zhang Sun Wuji and couldn't help but wonder. What was this auction for? What was this guy doing in Jiangnan? What did this have to do with the auction? 10,000 questions flashed through Li Shimin's mind. Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji calmed down and explained, "Didn't Zhang Feng create the colored glass and perfume? Then he opened an auction in Jiangnan and sold these things, causing those clans to fight over them and create internal conflicts." Chapter 2256. When Li Shimin heard this, he was quite shocked and could not calm down for a while. He did not expect this kid to do such a big thing in Jiangnan. It seemed that the plan to deal with the 5 clans and 7 kingdoms was gradually being implemented. This kid did not disappoint me. I just don't know if those 5 clans and 7 kingdoms people will deal with that kid. Would that brat be able to handle it all by himself? Thinking of this, he could not help but worry for Zhang Feng. He could not help but ask, "Is that kid okay?" When Zhang Sun Wuji saw Li Shimin's worried expression, he knew that His Majesty was worried about Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng was going alone, and there was no power in Jiangnan to protect him. However, with Zhang Feng's outstanding strategy, this was not a problem at all. Thinking of this, he could not help but comfort, "Your Majesty does not need to worry too much. Zhang Feng has outstanding wisdom and strategy. This time, he will be able to deal with it easily in Jiangnan." When Li Shimin heard this, he could not help but nod. He knew this kid. No difficulty could stop him. Moreover, there was Yu Qigong protecting him in Jiangnan. He would definitely be fine. However, Zhang Feng was very interested in this auction. If it was used in the Guanlong clan, what would it be like? Thinking up to this point, Li Shimin looked at Zhang Sun Wuji with interest and said, "My beloved subject, do you think we should organize an auction at the Guanlong clan? What do you think?" When this was said, Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked. What was His Majesty doing? Was he going to learn from Zhang Feng and hold an auction? This would not work. If it caused the Guanlong clan to be dissatisfied, things would become complicated. He immediately advised, "Your Majesty, you must not. Can you not add to the trouble?" Li Shimin frowned and could not help but look at Zhang Sun Wuji with a displeased expression. Could it be that that kid can do it, but I can't? Thinking of this, he shouted, "My dear minister, do you think I can't?" Zhang Sun Wuji was speechless. His Majesty was simply adding to the mess. If things got out of hand, he would be the one to blame. That would be troublesome. Thinking of this, Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but say with a worried expression, "Your Majesty, I didn't mean that. It's just that the implications are too great right now." Hearing this, Li Shimin was speechless. "Although I'm not as smart as that brat, I'm still the ruler of a country. How could something like this stump me?" After hesitating for a while, Li Shimin gave up the idea. If he caused the dissatisfaction of the Guanlong clan, things would indeed become more complicated. Then he waved his hand and said impatiently, all right, I'm just saying." Seeing that Li Shimin had given up, Zhang Sun Wuji let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he managed to persuade him in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Li Shimin sat on the couch, took out a cigarette, and put it in his mouth. Seeing this, Zhang Sun Wuji took out a lighter and lit it for Li Shimin. He blew out a smoke ring and enjoyed the intoxication of the cigarette. He suddenly felt incomparably comfortable and couldn't help but ask, "My dear minister, other than this news from Jiangnan, is there anything else?" Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji remembered that when Yu Qigong sent the news from Jiangnan, he also sent some perfume developed by Zhang Feng. He took out a few bottles of perfume from his sleeve and brought them in front of Li Shimin. The strong fragrance of the perfume permeated the entire imperial study. Li Shimin was attracted by the fragrance and couldn't help but turn his head to look at the perfume that Zhang Sun Wuji handed over. "This is, Your Majesty, this is Zhang Feng's newly developed perfume. It smells different from the previous ones," Zhang Sun Wuji explained. Li Shimin took the perfume and couldn't help but sniff it. A mesmerizing fragrance poured into Li Shimin's nostrils. It was very comfortable and he couldn't help but sigh. "Good boy. You didn't tell me you developed a new product. This perfume is really good stuff." No, how can I let those people in Jiangnan use this before I do?" Thinking of this, Li Shimin suddenly felt unhappy. This kind of good stuff must be branded with the label of the imperial family. He immediately ordered, "My dear minister, this perfume will be used exclusively by the imperial family in the future." "As you wish." Zhang Sun Wuji immediately cupped his hands and said. Li Shimin kept fiddling with the perfume, feeling the pleasure brought by the perfume. His eyes were fixed on the perfume, and then he stuffed it into his sleeve. He cleared his throat. "My dear minister, I just heard about Lioli and paper by in Jiangnan. I wonder how these businesses are doing in Jiangnan?" Seeing Li Shimin ask him, Zhang Sun Wuji paused. "Your Majesty, Zhang Feng has already opened a factory in Jiangnan for Lioli and paper by, and it is currently expanding." "Oh!" Li Shimin couldn't help but sigh when he heard this. This boy had actually expanded paper by and Lioli's businesses in Jiangnan. He had already opened a factory. It seemed that things were progressing very smoothly. He couldn't help but feel happy. Then he lay down on the bed, closed his eyes slightly and said faintly, "I already know about this. You may leave first." "As you wish." After speaking, Zhang Sun Wuji left the imperial study. Chapter 2257. The next day. In the political announcement hall. The officials had already arrived. At this time, they were all discussing something. "Lord Sun, did you know? I heard that the Crown Prince and the generals have returned victorious." "Yes, I also heard that the people in the city are welcoming the army. The emperor has arrived." At this time, the eunuchs were shouting. Everyone hurriedly shut their mouths and then shouted in unison, "Long live the emperor!" While talking, Li Shimin walked with majestic steps and appeared in front of the dragon throne in the political announcement hall in a good mood. "My beloved subjects, rise." The officials straightened up and retreated to the two sides of the hall and stood in a row. Li Shimin sat on the dragon throne and said lightly, "What is the matter today?" While talking, the anger in the entire hall suddenly changed at this moment. A minister walked out from the ranks and bowed, "Your Majesty, I heard that the crown prince has returned victorious and is being welcomed by the people in the city." As soon as these words came out, the officials instantly became excited and couldn't help but begin to discuss again. When Li Shimin heard this, he was immediately overjoyed. For a moment, his dragon face was overjoyed. His heart was filled with excitement. This kid didn't disappoint Lao Tzu. The Turks and the Tang dynasty have been fighting for many years without a result. Now Qing Qian and Qing Yaojin have won a great victory. Now that he has finally put down this big stone, how can he not be happy? He couldn't help but laugh. Haha. The officials also became happy with Li Shimin. This kind of happy event made them very excited. At this time, report. The crown prince and the generals have returned victorious. A voice came from outside the hall. A guard in armor hurriedly walked into the hall and shouted. Suddenly, the entire hall began to boil and the officials couldn't help but shout. "Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Your Majesty is wise and mighty. The Tang dynasty will be passed down forever." Li Shimin was laughing so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. His face was filled with joy and his heart was extremely excited. Just as Li Shimin and the officials were enjoying this joy, a young man in golden armor walked in from the entrance of the hall and shouted, "Father!" Li Shimin saw the young man excitedly stood up from the dragon throne and almost rushed down to give the young man a big hug. This youngster was Li Chengqian, who had just won a victory over the Tujue and India. Closely following behind him were two generals. They were Cheng Yaojin and Niu Jinda, who had returned with the youngster. Li Chengqian bowed with his hands clasping hands. Cheng Yaojin and Niu Jinda also followed behind and bowed to Li Shimin. At this time, Li Shimin was very happy. How could he not be excited when his son came back victorious? At the same time, a minister among the officials stood out and echoed, "Heroes come from the youth. Your Highness has such ability at such a young age. The Tang dynasty will be prosperous and the people will be at peace." Yes, Your Highness has made such a great military service and raised the prestige of the Tang dynasty. It can be said that no one has ever done it before. At this time, another minister stood out and said. Li Shimin listened to the praises of the officials and was very happy. He couldn't help but laugh. My good son, you've really made me proud." Seeing his father so excited, Li Chengqian also laughed and said, "Father, don't say that. It's all because of your good teaching that I have such achievements. This time, thanks to the help of the two generals, I was able to achieve a great victory in the war against the Turks and India." While speaking, Li Chengqian looked at Qing Yaojin and Niu Jinda behind him. This time, it was mainly Qing Yaojin and Niu Jinda, these two generals, who were responsible for destroying the enemy. Without them, he wouldn't have been able to face the Turks and India army alone. Niu Jinda and Qing Yaojin were the gods of war of the Tang dynasty. When leading troops to war, they could be said to be able to kill gods and Buddhas. Moreover, in this war, it was thanks to the magical weapons developed by teacher Zhang Feng that they were able to achieve a great victory. Otherwise, it would have taken a lot of effort. Li Shimin looked at Qing Yaojin and Niu Jinda and said with a smile, "You two have worked hard in this campaign." Hearing this, Niu Jinda cupped his hands and said, "Your Highness is brave and good at war, and your strategy is not inferior either. In the future, you will definitely be a wise emperor." Li Shimin smiled even more happily at this time. He didn't expect that his son would become so outstanding under the guidance of Zhang Feng. When Zhang Feng comes back, he must give my princes to Zhang Feng to teach to ensure the stability of the Tang dynasty. In this way, he can rest assured that he will hand over the world to him in the future. The more Li Shimin thought about it, the happier he became. he said loudly, "Tonight, I will hold a banquet in the imperial garden to reward the army." As soon as he said this, the generals in the hall couldn't help but become excited. Everyone became wild with joy. They kept cheering. They shouted in unison, "We wish your majesty a long and boundless life. We wish the Tang dynasty a long and prosperous life. Long live the emperor." Li Shimin looked at the hundreds of officials and generals celebrating in the main hall and immediately laughed out loud. Chapter 2258. In the evening. In the imperial garden. At this time, a celebration banquet was being held. The banquet was lively and vulgar. The sound of musical instruments could be heard constantly. During the banquet, the soldiers were talking freely and happily. There was a dazzling array of wine and food on the table. The civil and military officials all had a joyful expression on their faces. The scene became very lively and the atmosphere was very harmonious. The soldiers drank to their heart's content and talked and laughed uncomfortably. From time to time, they even played drinking games. You lost. It's your turn to drink. Damn it, I didn't even win at night. My luck is too bad. Again, I don't believe it. The emperor has arrived. At this time, the voice of the little eunuch entered the ears of the civil and military officials. Hearing this, the soldiers who were drinking and the civil and military officials who were talking and laughing suddenly stopped and then shouted in unison, "Long live the emperor!" While they were talking, Li Shimin walked with majestic steps and appeared at the entrance of the imperial garden in a good mood. Behind him were the crown prince, Qing Yaojin, and the others. "My beloved officials, no need to be so courteous. Today is Zhen's reward for meritorious officials. You can eat and drink to your heart's content." "Thank you, your majesty." As soon as Zhen's voice fell, the civil and military officials began to eat and drink again. The atmosphere became very lively. Li Shimin's face was brimming with joy. He turned his head and said to Li Chengqian and the others, "Chengqian, and my two beloved ministers, let's go inside first. The food and wine have already been prepared there." Hearing this, Li Chengqian, Qing Yaojin, and the others nodded and followed Li Shimin into the house. When they opened the door, the wine and food were already prepared in the house. The dishes on the table were dazzling and colorful. It was very appetizing. Li Shimin walked to the front of the main seat and waved his hand to signal Li Chengqian and the others to sit down. After everyone sat down, Li Shimin opened his mouth and said, "During this campaign against the Turks in India, we are indebted to the two of you for taking care of my son. Here, we bestow this wine to you too." While speaking, Li Shimin picked up the wine pot on the table, poured 2 full cups of wine and raised them. Upon seeing this, Cheng Yaojin and Niu Jinda hurriedly stood up and bent over to receive the wine from Li Shimin's hands. "Thank you for the wine, your majesty." Then he sat down, picked up the wine cup with both hands, and drank it in one gulp. He suddenly felt hearty. Usually, drinking wine would not be so sweet. Today, His Majesty bestowed wine to him, which made him feel particularly carefree. At the table, Li Chengqian was thinking about telling his teacher, Zhang Feng, the good news of his triumphant return. He couldn't help but fall into a daze. Li Shimin paused for a moment, then looked at Li Chengqian and shouted, "Chengqian, why haven't you filled your two beloved officials' cups and offered them a toast?" An angry shout pulled Li Chengqian back from his thoughts. Only when he saw Li Shimin looking at him with mild anger did he immediately react. He immediately stood up and picked up the wine pot on the table, filling Qing Yaojin and Niu Jinda's cups to the brim, and said, "This prince toasts the two generals." While speaking, Li Chengqian raised his cup and looked at Qing Yaojin and Niu Jinda with a refined and courteous appearance. Seeing this, the two of them also stood up and raised their cups, drinking the wine in one gulp at the same time. Then the two of them sat down, and Li Chengqian was like a child who had done something wrong. He turned his head to look at Li Shimin, not knowing what to say for a moment. Seeing this, Li Shimin impatiently waved his hand and said, "Sit down." Hearing this, Li Chengqian sat down and lowered his head. He didn't dare to look at Li Shimin, afraid that he would blame him. At this moment, Li Chengqian only wanted to tell this good news to teacher Zhang Feng, but his imperial father and the two generals were here, so it wasn't easy for him to leave. He was extremely anxious. Sitting to the side, Li Shimin saw that Li Qingqian's gaze was erratic. He had actually been in a daze just now. Did something happen? Thinking of this, Li Shimin asked, Qingqian, what do you want? This? No, nothing. Speak quickly. Hearing this, Cheng Yaojin and Niu Jinda also looked at Li Qingqian. What was wrong with the crown prince? Was there something that wasn't convenient to say here? Immediately, Cheng Yaojin smiled and said, Your Highness, if there's something, just say it. We're all family, what's there to be embarrassed about? After hesitating for a moment, Li Qingqian said in a low voice, I want to tell my teacher Zhang Feng about my army's triumphant return. Hearing this, Li Shimin and Cheng Yaojin looked at Li Qingqian at the same time. Cheng Yaojin couldn't help but smile. I was wondering what it was about. I haven't seen that brat in a long time. I wonder what he's doing? I want to have a good drink with him sometime. Yeah, I was just about to look for that brat. On the side, Niu Jinda also agreed. Seeing this, Li Shimin couldn't help but say, I was wondering what it was about. That brat Zhang Feng has already gone to Jiangnan. What? Jiangnan? This, Li Qingqian and Cheng Yaojin were instantly shocked. They all looked at Li Shimin, their eyes filled with questions. They couldn't help but think, what did that brat go to Jiangnan for? They were still talking about looking for that brat to have a drink. Great, now they couldn't have a drink. When Li Qingqian heard that teacher Zhang Feng had gone to Jiangnan, he couldn't hold back his excitement and said urgently, Father, I also want to go to Jiangnan. Chapter 2259. As soon as Li Qingqian's words fell, the atmosphere in the room suddenly changed. Li Shimin's face had long since become incomparably ashen. When Cheng Yaojin and Niu Jinda saw Li Shimin's current appearance, they couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. It seemed that His Majesty was truly angry. Li Shimin suddenly slammed the table. With a clang, the bowl and chopsticks in front of him instantly fell to the ground. He shouted angrily, We forbid you from going to Jiangnan to find that brat. Li Shimin's words gave Li Qingqian a fright. His expression immediately turned ugly. This was the first time he had seen his father angry. For a moment he didn't know what to do. He hadn't expected his father to be so angry. Had he really done something wrong? When Cheng Yaojin saw the sudden change in His Majesty's expression, he hurriedly got up and poured a cup of wine for His Majesty. Your Majesty, don't be angry. His Highness the Crown Prince spoke without careful consideration. I hope Your Majesty won't blame him. This subject will offer you a toast. As he spoke, Cheng Yaojin raised his cup and faced Li Shimin, quietly waiting for Li Shimin's response. Li Shimin paused for a moment. Seeing Cheng Yaojin propose a toast to him, his expression eased a little. He stood up, picked up the wine glass on the table and said with a smile, Beloved subject, come, drink. Afterward, the two drank the wine in their cups in one gulp and sat down. Li Qingqian's heart was burning with anxiety. He, Cheng Yaojin, and General Niu Jinda had repelled the Turkic and Indian armies. It should have been great news, but it had turned out like this. He only wanted to tell his teacher Zhang Feng the good news, but things didn't go as he wished. Teacher Zhang Feng wasn't in Chang'an, but had gone to Jiangnan. He had asked his father to go to Jiangnan to find teacher Zhang Feng. Why couldn't he do it? He truly didn't know what his father was thinking. When Li Shimin saw Li Qingqian's lowered head, his face filled with confusion and grievance, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He paused. Oh, Qingqian, do you know why we did not allow you to go to Jiangnan to find Zhang Feng? Hearing this, Li Qingqian shook his head in confusion. Upon seeing this, Li Shimin anxiously said, You should know that you are the crown prince of the Tang dynasty. All the people in the world are watching your every word and action. If I let you go to Jiangnan, how can I be at ease on the road? If the 5 clans and 7 watchmen of Jiangnan knew that the crown prince of the Tang dynasty was not in Chang, but went to Jiangnan, what do you think they would do? When these words were spoken, not only was Li Qingqian shocked, even the hearts of Cheng Yaojin and Niu Jinda trembled. At this moment, Li Qingqian finally understood his imperial father's good intentions. However, wasn't teacher Zhang Feng in Jiangnan? His ability to strategize was well-deserved. With him there, what did he have to worry about? Thinking of this, Li Chengqian gathered his courage and immediately stood up to refute. But, Imperial Father, I will be careful on the road. This time, I am going to Jiangnan incognito. No one will know. Don't worry. Besides, Teacher Zhang Feng will also be there. This was the first time he had disobeyed his imperial father. Normally, he would not dare to do so. At this moment, his heartbeat could not help but quicken, and his breathing gradually became hurried. Seeing that Chengqian was not listening to him, Li Shimin suddenly stood up and glared at Li Chengqian, angrily shouting, "Impudent! We are doing this for your own good. Can't you let us be at ease?" At this moment, Li Shimin was so angry that he only wanted to beat this brat up. This brat actually dared to disobey him today. This brat really did not let him be at ease. If he went to Jiangnan, this matter would become complicated. Zhang Feng was going to Jiangnan to deal with the 5 clans and 7 watchmen. If this brat were to let the 5 clans and 7 watchmen know his identity, wouldn't this bring trouble to Zhang Feng and bring trouble to himself? In an instant, the atmosphere in the room became incomparably solemn. Li Shimin's heart was filled with mixed feelings. If it was a child from an ordinary family, no one would stop him from going wherever he wanted to. However, as the crown prince of the Tang dynasty, he represented the entire Tang dynasty. If any accident happened, no one could bear the responsibility. Li Shimin would not allow Li Chengqian to be unreasonable and disregard the overall situation. Cheng Yaojin and Yo Jinda, who were sitting to the side, saw that His Majesty was furious. They immediately stood up, bowed, and shouted in unison, "Your Majesty, do not be angry." His Highness the Crown Prince only wanted to tell the good news to Zhang Feng. For a moment, he was confused and said such words. "I hope your Majesty will not blame him." Hearing this, Li Shimin looked at Li Chengqian and could not help but sigh. He then sat down and stroked his temples with a headache. Sigh. Seeing that the emperor did not say anything, Cheng Yaojin turned to Li Chengqian and tried to persuade him. "I say, Your Highness the Crown Prince, you should be more sensible. Let His Majesty not worry. You represent the entire Tang dynasty. If something really happens, can you bear the consequences?" Li Chengqian was about to speak, but seeing the situation, he thought about it and stopped. Seeing his father so angry, he felt incomparably guilty. After hesitating for a moment, he secretly decided that he would go to White Deer Academy tomorrow and find Cheng Chumo to discuss it first. Li Shimin saw that Chengqian had quieted down and did not refute, so he did not say anything. The atmosphere became incomparably awkward. Originally, it was to reward the 3 armies with wine and meat, but now it had become like this because of this brat. After a pause, he said, "My 2 beloved subjects, don't just stand there. Come, drink." Chapter 2260. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, Li Chengqian hurriedly left the palace, preparing to go to White Deer Academy to find Cheng Chumo. On the mountain, it was still dusky. Some students, craftsmen and workers were busy preparing breakfast. When Li Chengqian went up the mountain, Cheng Chumo was doing morning exercises to stretch his muscles. Seeing Li Chengqian come, Cheng Chumo knew something was wrong. He hurriedly invited Li Chengqian to the side. "Teacher Zhang Feng went to Jiangnan, is he not in the academy?" Cheng Chumo impatiently asked. Cheng Chumo nodded his head. "Yes, in a few days we are preparing to go to Jiangnan to find President Zhang." Hearing this, Li Chengqian's expression changed. What was going on? Cheng Chumo and the others were going to Jiangnan to find teacher Zhang Feng? The reason he came here was to discuss with Cheng Chumo the matter of going to Jiangnan to find teacher Zhang Feng. At this time, hearing Cheng Chumo say this, he did not think that they already knew that his teacher was going to Jiangnan and that there were only a few days left. Thinking of this, Li Chengqian became incomparably disappointed, his mood extremely heavy. Cheng Chumo saw the crown prince's melancholy expression and called out, let's go to the cafeteria, we can talk while we eat." As the 2 sat down, there were workers who served several bowls of porridge. Waiting for them to leave, Cheng Chumo asked in confusion, "Your Highness, you came here to find President Zhang?" When the crown prince heard that he was going to Jiangnan to find President Zhang in a few days, he became incomparably melancholy. There was definitely something on his mind. Li Qingqian could not help but sigh. Sigh, don't mention it. I originally wanted to tell teacher Zhang Feng the news of victory, but I did not think that he had already gone to Jiangnan. And you just said that in a few days you are also going to Jiangnan to find him. Hearing this, Cheng Chumo was secretly shocked. No wonder the crown prince's attitude changed so much when he heard that he was going to Jiangnan to find President Zhang. Did he also want to go to Jiangnan to find President Zhang? Thinking of this, Cheng Chumo couldn't help but ask, could it be? Your Highness, you are also preparing to go to Jiangnan? While speaking, Cheng Chumo's eyes widened. He could not believe that the crown prince of the Tang dynasty would leave Chang and for Jiangnan. Hearing this, Li Qingqian couldn't help but nod and say helplessly, Yesterday, I discussed this matter with Imperial Father. In the end, he flew into a rage and scolded me. He didn't agree. When Cheng Chumo heard Li Qingqian's words, 3 black lines involuntarily appeared on his forehead. His face was speechless. The crown prince must be crazy. If he left Chang and went to Jiangnan, the consequences would be unimaginable. The crown prince of the Great Tang represented the imperial clan. If he went to Jiangnan and let the thorns of the imperial court, the 5 clans and 7 princes, know about it, they would definitely be punished. This, Cheng Chumo didn't dare to imagine what the consequences would be. Anyway, it would definitely be terrible, so he tried to persuade him. Your Highness, don't joke with me. Why don't you just stay in Chang? When I go to Jiangnan, I will tell President Zhang the news of your victorious return. You can rest assured. Hearing Cheng Chumo's words, Li Qingqian's mind suddenly exploded. He couldn't help but roll his eyes at Cheng Chumo. Why can they go, but I can't? What's wrong with the crown prince? I just want to tell my 4th brother the good news. The more he thought about it, the more depressed he became. Li Qingqian said gloomily, I just want to go to Chang and to find my teacher. Why can't I go? Besides, my teacher is in Jiangnan. What's there to worry about? As long as we keep a low profile and don't expose our identities, everything will be fine. Cheng Chumo didn't respond. He just picked up the porridge on the table and drank 2 mouthfuls while calling Li Qingqian over. Li Qingqian didn't dare to continue. If he continued, what would the crown prince say next? Li Qingqian shook his head. How could he be in the mood to eat breakfast at this time? He was thinking about going to Jiangnan. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. He couldn't help but think, if Cheng Chumo and the others are going to Jiangnan, should I disguise myself and go with them? Thinking of this, he looked at Cheng Chumo with a smirk. Seeing Li Qingqian looking at him like this, he knew it was not a good thing, so he buried his head in eating and avoided the question. Li Qingqian smiled and said, Chumo, when you go to Jiangnan, how about I disguise myself and go with you? You cover me. Cough. Cough, Cheng Chumo was asked by Li Qingqian. The rice that he had just eaten was suddenly stuck in his throat. He choked and coughed. He kept shaking his head and said, No, no, no. Li Qingqian's face darkened. He had thought of this idea with great difficulty, but he didn't expect this kid to not cooperate with him. He suddenly became angry. As the crown prince of the Tang dynasty, I order you to obey me and cover me when I go to Jiangnan. Do you hear me? Cheng Chumo was frightened by Li Qingqian. He looked at him with a face full of fear. He couldn't help but say, Your Highness, it's not that I don't want to, but once this matter is exposed, it will cause a huge commotion. I will definitely be dragged into this matter. When your father knows, we won't be able to bear the consequences. Can you not make things difficult for me? Hearing this, Li Qingqian's face was filled with displeasure. His mood was terrible. He secretly thought to himself, this won't do, that won't do, then what should he do? Forget it, forget it. If this continued, not only would it implicate Cheng Chumo and the others, it wouldn't be good for him either. He then bid farewell to Cheng Chumo and left White Deer Academy. Chapter 2261. Night quietly shrouded the palace. In the imperial study, Li Shimin sat on the couch with a melancholy face. There was a table in front of him with some delicious food and wine on it. Li Shimin took out a cigarette from behind him, lit it with a match, and took a deep puff. Few, endless thoughts flashed through his mind. Although he returned victorious from the battle against the Turks in India, he always felt a faint sense of unease. Although the Turks were forced to retreat to the depths of the grasslands by our army, there are still remnants. If the Turks are not destroyed, how can I be at ease? How can the Tang dynasty be stable? Thinking of this, Li Shimin could not help but sigh. At this moment, the voice of a young eunuch sounded outside the door. "Your Majesty, Lord Zhang's son is here." Hearing this, Li Shimin pulled out his wandering thoughts, paused, and said, "Let him in." "Yes, Your Majesty." A moment later, the door was pushed open, and Zhang's son Wuji walked in. He bowed to Li Shimin and said, "Your Majesty, don't be so polite in the middle of the night." Li Shimin waved his hand impatiently, then took a sip of the wine on the table. Zhang's son Wuji saw His Majesty's worried face and could not help but ask, "Your Majesty, I see that you look haggard and your face is not looking good. Is there something troubling you? Can you tell me?" Sigh. Li Shimin could not help but sigh, then waved his hand. "My dear minister, sit down and talk." Hearing this, Zhang's son Wuji stepped forward and sat on the left side of Li Shimin, quietly waiting for His Majesty to tell him what was on his mind. Li Shimin paused and said, "My dear minister, although our army won the battle, we still have not eliminated the remnants. I'm still worried." Zhang's son Wuji was enlightened when he heard that. It turned out that His Majesty was worried about the matter between the Turks and India. No wonder His Majesty had such a worried expression. Immediately, he said, "Your Majesty need not worry too much. This time, the Turks and Indians have suffered heavy losses. Under the prestige of our Tang dynasty, I believe that they will not invade again." Hearing this, Li Shimin couldn't help but shake his head. He picked up the cigarette and took another puff. He instantly felt refreshed. "My dear minister, the Turks are a thorn in my heart. As long as I don't get rid of them, I won't be at ease. The Tang dynasty won't be stable either." When Zhang's son Wuji heard this, he couldn't help but be shocked. It seemed like His Majesty was preparing to completely eradicate the Turks and Indians to prevent future troubles. It would pave the way for the Crown Prince to ascend the throne in the future, so that the Crown Prince could sit firmly in the Tang dynasty and not be troubled by outsiders. Thinking of this, Zhang's son Wuji frowned and couldn't help but ask, "What is Your Majesty's plan?" Li Shimin's eyes revealed a hint of fierceness. He suddenly stood up and said, "I want to send troops to suppress the border and completely eradicate the Turks and Indians. This will shake the prestige of our Tang dynasty." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the room suddenly changed. It was filled with endless killing intent, making Zhang's son Wuji shudder. However, if His Majesty attacked the Turks and Indians at this time, it would be really bad. There was not much food left for this march. It was not enough to launch another campaign against the Tujue and India. This time, they had managed to scrape together enough provisions to attack them. If they were to attack them forcefully, they would not be able to do so. If His Majesty attacked forcefully, our Tang dynasty would suffer heavy losses. Thinking of this, Zhang's son Wuji's expression changed and he immediately persuaded, "Your Majesty, please listen to me. This must not happen. Your Majesty, please withdraw your order." Li Shimin looked doubtfully at Zhang's son Wuji and immediately shouted with a displeased expression, "Is there something wrong with this?" Zhang's son Wuji stood up and cupped his hands as he pleaded, "Your Majesty, the rations for this expedition were gathered from all over the place. If we were to set off again, the rations wouldn't be enough. I hope that Your Majesty can help us." Hearing this, Li Shimin suddenly understood. So it was like this. "However, if the Turks are not destroyed, I will not be able to eat or sleep in peace. What should I do?" This food was gathered from a method that Zhang Feng came up with when he was here. At this time, he had gone to Jiangnan. It is difficult for him to come back for a while. Without him by my side, I almost lost my mind. Thinking of this, Li Shimin couldn't help but feel helpless. If only that brat was here. He is outstanding in strategy and will definitely have a way to solve this problem for me. Zhang's son Wuji saw that His Majesty didn't insist on doing things his own way and was deeply gratified. He continued, Your Majesty, let's discuss this matter in the future. For now, let's save our strength. When we don't have to worry about food, then we will attack the Turks. Hearing this, Li Shimin felt a wave of exhaustion. His face was full of helplessness. He could only drop this matter and wait for that brat to come back before making any plans. At this moment, in the corridor outside the imperial study, suddenly, there was the sound of someone singing. The retired emperor has arrived. As the voice sounded, Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji in the imperial study were shocked. Why is the retired emperor here? At this time, the retired emperor came. Your Majesty, this humble subject will not disturb you. This subject will take his leave first. But at this time, Li Yuan walked into the imperial study with a smile and saw Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji who was about to leave. He asked, "Where is my grandson, Qingqian?" Chapter 2262. While speaking, Li Yuan walked to the front of the couch and sat down. He picked up the wine pot on the table and poured himself a cup of wine. His face was brimming with excitement. Hearing this, Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji suddenly realized that the retired emperor had come to find Li Qingqian. But what was the matter? Could it be? Thinking of this, Li Shimin asked doubtfully, "Imperial father, I wonder what is the matter with you visiting so late at night?" Li Yuan sat on the couch, eating delicious food and drinking wine. He picked up the cigarette on the table and started smoking, feeling very uncomfortable. He said impatiently, "Zhen misses my grandson, is that not enough? I heard that this time, Qingqian defeated the Turks and India. I only found out about such a joyous matter now, so I came to find Qingqian late at night to chat." "This, Imperial father, Qingqian has already gone to bed," Li Shimin replied absent-mindedly. Hearing this, Li Yuan nodded thoughtfully. Seeing Li Shimin's melancholy expression, he couldn't help but ask, "Son, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so unhappy? Could it be that you're unhappy that Imperial father came?" No, this son definitely didn't mean that," Li Shimin hurriedly replied. Li Yuan looked at Li Shimin's anxious appearance and couldn't help but laugh. He paused. "All right, Zhen was just joking with you. Then what's the matter that's making things so difficult for you?" Hearing this, Li Shimin couldn't help but sigh. He didn't know if he should tell Imperial father about this. If he knew that Qingqian was going to Jiangnan to find Zhang Feng, what would his attitude be? Imperial father's thoughts couldn't be understood at all. What should he do? Thinking of this, Li Shimin stammered. Spit it out if you have something to say. You're hemming and hawing. You don't look like the ruler of a country." Li Shimin was startled and immediately said, Ever since Qingqian came back, I wanted to tell this good news to Zhang Feng, but Zhang Feng is not in Chang'an. He went to Jiangnan a while ago. In the end, this kid was also clamoring to go to Jiangnan. How could I agree? He was the crown prince of the Tang dynasty. If his identity was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. The moment Li Yuan heard, he said with a smile on his face, "I was wondering what it was? So that's the reason. If my grandson wants to go to Jiangnan, then let him go." "But Imperial father, he is the crown prince. If his identity is revealed, then shut up," Li Yuan shouted angrily. Li Shimin obediently did not dare to refute, fearing that Fu Huang would get angry and blame him. Although he was the ruler of a country, he still did not have any way to deal with his imperial father. He looked at Li Yuan with a helpless expression. Seeing this, Li Yuan continued to say, "Son, I say, are you muddle-headed? Why did you send my grandson to White Deer Academy before?" Hearing this, Li Shimin could not help but think that when he sent Qingqian to White Deer Academy, it was to let Zhang Feng teach him so that Qingqian would be sensible earlier. As the crown prince of the Tang dynasty, how could he be timid and afraid of trouble? This was his original intention. Why did Imperial father mention this? After thinking for a while, he asked doubtfully, "Imperial father, you mean?" Li Yuan picked up the cigarette in his mouth, took a deep breath, and spat out circles of smoke. His face was blurred and he enjoyed it very much. He said faintly, "Son, since you sent Qingqian to White Deer Academy to let Zhang Feng teach him, why are you being so submissive now and stopping my grandson from going to Jiangnan?" Hearing this, Li Shimin suddenly understood. He could not help but pat his head. Why did he not think of this? Originally, he sent Qingqian to Zhang Feng to let Zhang Feng teach him. Why did he stop him from going to Jiangnan this time? This was Jiangnan, not Cheng. There were the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. If his identity was exposed, then, thinking of this, Min immediately said, Imperial Father, Zhang Feng went to Jiangnan to deal with the 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Qingqian's identity is special. If we go to find him and his identity is known by the 5 surnames and 7 hopes, the consequences will be unthinkable. Li Yuan could not help but laugh. This child was really stupid. What kind of talent was Zhang Feng to give my grandson to that kid? I am absolutely at ease. Right now, Qingqian needs to be well trained. With that kid's teaching, there will definitely be a great change. Seeing this, Li Yuan could not help but say, Son, if you're really worried, then let Qingqian and White Deer Academy's Cheng Chumo and the others go together. When you leave, bring the weapons that Zhang Brat created to protect yourself. You should be able to be at ease like this, right? Hearing this, Li Shimin suddenly understood. How could he be so stupid? Didn't Zhang Feng make weapons like Huatong and Chang'an? At that time, giving them to Qingqian and the others to protect themselves would be good. Furthermore, the kid in Jiangnan was there. With his intelligence, he should be able to deal with him. Furthermore, General Yu Qigong was also there. When Zhang Feng went to Jiangnan, he had sent out 10,000 armored guards to protect Zhang Feng's safety. Thinking of this, Li Shimin's heart finally calmed down. He could not help but speak excitedly. I was confused for a moment. Please do not blame me, Imperial Father. Tomorrow, I will have Qingqian go to Jiangnan. Come to a drink. Li Yuan laughed loudly and called Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji over to drink together. Chapter 2263. Wanshan. White Deer College. Old Yu, what do you think of our young friend Zhang setting up Chang'an University in Jiangnan? Our young friend Zhang is setting up a college to recruit talents for His Majesty. Of course, it's a good thing. At this moment, 2 old men who were over 60 years old were chatting at the head of the class in White Deer College. They were the great scholars Yu Shinan and Ouyang Sun, who were overseeing Chang'an and White Deer College. They were discussing Zhang Feng's matters in Jiangnan. Yu Shinan shook his head and couldn't help but sigh. Ouyang Sun saw Yu Shinan sigh and couldn't help but ask curiously, Old Yu, what's wrong with you? Yu Shinan's mind was filled with thoughts of Zhang Feng setting up a college in Jiangnan. He couldn't help but worry. He was really afraid that this kid would mislead the students. After setting up White Deer College, he handed it over to the old man and Ouyang Sun and became a shopkeeper who didn't do anything. He didn't care at all. Who knew if this kid wouldn't worry about setting up a Chang'an University in Jiangnan this time? Ouyang Sun saw Yu Shinan's worried face and comforted him. Old Yu, why are you worrying about this? It's not like you don't know that kid's abilities. Although he is usually sloppy and has a lazy look, but this kid's wisdom and character really make this old man admire him. Otherwise, how do you think that kid convinced the 2 of us to stay in White Deer Academy? Yu Shinan's expression became slightly better after hearing this. He sighed in his heart. That's right, old man definitely recognizes this kid's abilities. In terms of intelligence, this kid is as cunning as a monkey. He probably has his own plans. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile. Brother Ouyang, you're right. Since this kid can open White Deer College, he can definitely do it in Jiangnan. However, old man is still worried. Seeing that Yu Shinan was still worried about Zhang Feng, Ouyang Sun comforted him. Old Yu, it's almost the new year. If you're still worried, we can go find that kid and celebrate the new year together. Wouldn't it be better to ask that kid about the academy while we're at it? When Yu Shinan heard this, he was a little tempted. When the time came, he would take the opportunity to see that kid and ask about the academy. However, they couldn't leave either. The 2 of them were in charge of White Deer College. If they left, what would happen to the college? He immediately shook his head and said, No, if the 2 of us leave, who will be in charge of the academy? When he heard this, Ouyang Sun thought about it. That was true. The 2 of them definitely couldn't leave the academy now. What should they do? After thinking for a while, Ouyang Sun slapped his forehead and said, That's right, Old Yu, We can send Chungchumo and the others. Anyway, they must have gone crazy from staying in the academy. Let them go out and train themselves. They can also visit Zhang Feng. When the time comes, they can write to us and report the situation. When Yu Shernan heard this, he instantly felt enlightened. That's right, let those brats go to Jiangnan. They can also help us see how that kid is doing with the academy. When he thought of this, he shouted, "Someone, call Chungchumo, do go, and the others here." Sir. The servant at the door heard him and walked into the room. After a while, Chungchumo, Du Go, and Wei Shuyu walked into the classroom. They greeted Yu Shernan and Ouyang Sun in unison. Students pay respect to teachers. When Yu Shernan saw them come in, he said eagerly, "Chumo, brother Ouyang and I have decided that when you go to Jiangnan, you will keep an eye on Zhang Feng for us and see how things are going with the college. If there is any situation, you can contact us by letter." Chung Chumo looked confused. What's wrong with the teachers? Why did they suddenly say this? Could it be, they must be afraid that President Zhang would cause trouble in Jiangnan, so they asked them to watch over Zhang Feng. When he thought of this, Chung Chumo bowed and said, "Yes, student will follow teacher's order." Teacher, At this time, Chung Chumo didn't know if he should tell them. Yesterday, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince came to him and asked him to go to Jiangnan together. He felt helpless. When Yu Shernan saw Chung Chumo's hesitant face, he couldn't help but think, does this kid have other things to say? He asked, "Chumo, do you have other things to say?" After hesitating for a long time, Chung Chumo was ready to say it. This matter involved a lot. He must tell the teacher and see what decision he would make. After thinking about it, he said, "Teacher, yesterday, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince came to find me." His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Yu Shernan frowned. Didn't His Royal Highness the Crown Prince go with General Qing Yaojin to attack the Turks in India? Was there something he didn't want others to know? Thinking of this, Yu Shernan couldn't help but wonder, why did His Royal Highness the Crown Prince look for you? Chung Chumo paused and said, "Teacher, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince asked me to go to Jiangnan to find President Zhang. He wants us to take him with us when we go to Jiangnan." What? His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is going to Jiangnan? Suddenly, Yu Shernan and Ouyang Sun were shocked and immediately stood up from their seats.